Wait. Kindly subscribe to this channel to enjoy more of this story. Ethan Cross had everything the world said he needed. At 36, he was the CEO of Crosstech Enterprises, one of the fastest-growing tech conglomerates in America. Forbes called him a visionary, Wall Street called him a shark, and the tabloids called him America's most eligible bachelor. But Ethan Cross called himself one thing only: alone. No amount of private jets, high-rise penthouses, or luxury cars could fill the silence that greeted him every night when he returned home. Every woman he met seemed more interested in his bank account than the man behind it. They loved the CEO. No one even knew the real Ethan. So, one evening, while sipping bourbon in his Manhattan suite and staring at the city skyline, he made a radical decision. For the next few months, he would step away from the spotlight, not as a retreat, but as a mission, to find someone who would love him without the suits, the headlines, or the fortune. He arranged everything with meticulous precision. Using his board's trust and his best legal team, he installed a temporary CEO and made himself invisible in the business world. Then, using a fake name and identity, he took a job at the bottom rung of his own company. As a night shift security officer, clad in a cheap uniform and steel-toe boots, Ethan became Eli Carter, the quiet new guy with kind eyes and a mysterious past. The real employees barely noticed him. Most passed him without a second glance, except her, Sofia Ramirez, a project coordinator who worked late shifts and always seemed to be arguing with her boss or juggling 3 tasks at once. She was smart, beautiful, and stubbornly independent. She never flirted with the executives, rolled her eyes at anyone who bragged about money, and always smiled when she passed the security desk. Ethan, Eli, was captivated. Over the following weeks, their casual nods turned into small talk. Small talk turned into shared coffee breaks, then late-night conversations in the empty lobby. She spoke about her dreams of starting a non-profit for underprivileged kids, about her love of salsa music, about her distrust of powerful men. Especially the company's reclusive CEO, Ethan Cross, whom she called just another rich ghost behind a glass tower. Ethan flinched the first time he heard that, but he didn't stop coming to the lobby. He laughed with her, listened, opened up in ways he hadn't with anyone in years, and soon something unexpected bloomed, something real. But secrets have short lifespans. One stormy night, as lightning danced across the sky and the city slept, Ethan sat at the security desk, scrolling through a confidential email from the board. On his private device, just to check in. He didn't hear Sofia walk up behind him. She gasped, then whispered, "That email. It's from Crosstech's boardroom." Her eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" Ethan turned, heart pounding. Just as he opened his mouth to speak, the lobby lights flickered out and a loud crash echoed through the building. Then an alarm blared and someone screamed. The alarm wailed like a siren of truth, shrill and merciless. Sofia's eyes darted between Ethan and the glowing screen, realization crashing over her like thunder. "I asked you a question," she said, voice low but laced with fury. "Who are you, really?" Before Ethan could answer, a second scream echoed from the 14th floor. Then another loud crash. His instincts kicked in. "Stay here," he said, already sprinting toward the elevators. "Like hell I will." Sofia ran beside him, keeping pace. "If someone's in danger, I'm not hiding." They reached the stairwell. Elevators were down with the alarm system and climbed fast. 4 flights up, they found a trembling intern crouched behind an overturned filing cabinet, eyes wide with fear. "Someone's in the server room," she stammered. "I think they broke in." Ethan's jaw tightened. The server room held the company's deepest secrets, intellectual property, patent designs, client data, the kind of files people would kill for, the kind that could destroy Crosstech if stolen or leaked. They reached the server room just as a masked figure dashed out, nearly knocking Ethan over. He gave chase through the corridor, heart pounding, adrenaline surging, Sofia trailing behind him. They cornered the intruder near the maintenance exit. The thief turned suddenly, swinging a crowbar, catching Ethan in the ribs. He went down hard, the breath knocked from his lungs, but Sofia was faster. She grabbed a fire extinguisher and struck the thief across the back. The crowbar clanged to the floor, and the masked figure crumpled. Security rushed in moments later. Police weren't far behind. It wasn't until they unmasked the thief that Ethan's world cracked wide open. It was Brent Holloway, Crosstech's interim CEO, the very man Ethan had handpicked to run the company in his absence. Sofia stared at Ethan, realization dawning once more. "You knew him, didn't you?" Ethan finally met her gaze, the weight of two lives crashing together in his eyes. "Yes," he whispered, "because I'm Ethan Cross." The room spun in silence. Later, as Brent was escorted away in handcuffs and the chaos settled, Ethan and Sofia sat in the deserted cafeteria, bruised and quiet. "I didn't lie to you to hurt you," Ethan said softly. "I was trying to find someone who saw me, not the man on magazine covers." "You should have told me the truth," she replied, voice trembling. "You say you wanted to be real, but you were playing a role." A pause hung between them like fog. Then she stood. "I need time." Before he could respond, she walked away, out of the cafeteria, out of his life for now. The next morning, Ethan returned to his office. No disguise, no uniform, just the weight of everything he'd risked. His company, his secrets, and the only woman who'd ever made him feel human. He slumped into his chair and stared at the skyline. Then, his assistant buzzed in. "Sir, there's a letter addressed to Eli Carter. No return address." He opened it slowly. Inside was a single line written in familiar handwriting. "If you really want me to believe in you, prove it." Beneath that was a location, a date. Tonight. Ethan folded the letter, heart thundering, but as he rose to leave, his phone buzzed. With a new notification, a leak. Sensitive company data posted online. A message from an anonymous account. "You thought Brent was the only one." Ethan stared at his phone. Disbelief hardening into dread. Confidential blueprints, strategic plans, internal communications, all leaked, all public. The anonymous message burned into his mind. You thought Brent was the only one. Who else had betrayed him? The company was reeling. His legal team scrambled to issue takedown notices. His IT department launched a cyber forensics investigation. But deep down, Ethan knew this wasn't random. This was personal. He didn't have time to dwell. The clock was ticking. That night, he arrived at the location Sofia had written in her letter, a quiet rooftop garden in Brooklyn overlooking the Manhattan skyline. Moonlight cast silver ribbons over the city below. Sofia was already there, arms crossed, eyes unreadable. "You came," she said. "I had to." There was a long pause. The air between them was thick with unfinished sentences. "You lied, Ethan," she said quietly. "But what hurt more was, I let myself fall for you, the man you were pretending to be." "I wasn't pretending with you," he said, stepping closer. "Eli Carter was me, the real me, the version I never get to be. With you, I didn't have to be a CEO. I was just a man." She studied his face, searching. "I want to believe that," she whispered. He took her hand gently. "Then let me prove it, not with words, with actions. Let me show you who I am when everything's on." The line. She looked at their intertwined hands for a moment, then nodded once. "But there's something you need to know too," she said slowly. "That night, the server break-in, I saw something." Ethan tensed. "What?" Sofia looked around, then pulled a small USB drive from her pocket. "Brent dropped this. I didn't give it to the police." Ethan took it, confused. "What's on it?" "I don't know. I couldn't crack the encryption, but I saw a folder name before it locked me out. Project LEX." Ethan froze. Project LEX was a secret development, his most ambitious innovation, a neural interface that could revolutionize communication, medicine, and AI. Only 4 people knew it existed, and Brent wasn't one of them. His mind raced. If Brent had that file, someone higher up gave it to him, someone close. Suddenly, Sofia's phone buzzed. She glanced down, and her expression drained of color. Ethan leaned over. The message read, "Wrong move, Sofia. Tell Cross to stay quiet. About Luke's. Or next time, we won't just leak files." Attached was a photo of Sofia's younger brother, tied up, terrified, time-stamped, 15 minutes ago. Sofia looked at Ethan, her voice barely a whisper. "They have him." Ethan's eyes darkened, fury and fear colliding in his chest. "Then we're not just fighting for my company anymore." He tightened his grip on the USB, heart pounding. "We're going to war." The wind on the rooftop cut cold and sharp, but Ethan barely felt it. The photo of Sofia's brother, gagged and restrained, was burned into his brain. Sofia gripped her phone, hands trembling. "We have to go to the police." Ethan shook his head. "They'll tell us to wait. They'll escalate. And by then, your brother could be gone." Her eyes filled with panic. "Then what do? We use the one thing they don't know we have." Ethan held up the USB drive, and we flushed them out ourselves. Back at Ethan's private tech lab, far off grid and firewall tighter than Fort Knox, his personal engineer Kira worked to crack the encrypted drive. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, a window blinked open. Access granted. Inside were folders detailing a shadow operation Ethan never authorized, codenamed Project Lux Red. His technology had been stolen and weaponized, altered, sold to foreign buyers by someone inside his board. Kira scrolled further and gasped. "Ethan, this wasn't just Brent." He leaned in. There, in a series of internal messages, was undeniable proof. Board member Victoria Lang, his longtime advisor and family friend, was orchestrating everything. Sofia's jaw dropped. She's the one who gave Brent access, and she's behind the threats. Ethan's heart sank. Victoria had mentored him since his father died. She'd guided him through mergers, losses, and now she'd sold him out. "We need to confront her," Sofia said, "before she disappears." "No," Ethan replied. "We need to outplay her on her own boardroom floor." The next morning, Crosstech held an emergency board meeting. Victoria entered confidently, all sleek smiles and silver heels. "What's this about, Ethan?" He stood at the head of the table, calm, collected, but dangerous. "This is about betrayal," he said, "about stolen tech, about treason." Her smile flickered. Ethan pressed a button. The screen behind him lit up with evidence from the USB drive, emails, wire transfers, and the damning Project Lux red specs. Gasps echoed around the room. "You think this is proof?" Victoria sneered. "It won't hold in court." Ethan nodded to the door. 2 federal agents stepped in. "We'll let the FBI decide that." Panic flashed across her face. As she was led out in cuffs, she hissed at Ethan, "You think this is over? You have no idea what's coming." But Ethan didn't flinch. He was already walking out, with Sofia beside him. That night, Sofia's brother was found and freed by private contractors Ethan had hired to trace the message origin, shaken but unharmed. When Ethan and Sofia returned to the rooftop where it all began, the city shimmered below them like stars scattered across glass. "You didn't just save your company," Sofia said, her voice soft. "You saved my family. I promised I'd prove myself to you," Ethan said, taking her hands in his. "I meant every word." Her eyes glistened. "I know." He leaned in. "So, where do we go from here?" She smiled, pulling him closer. "Wherever it takes to build something real." Their lips met, slow, certain, electric, but just as they turned to leave, Ethan's phone buzzed again. One new message, no name, no number, just 3 chilling words. "Lux is alive." The message stared up from Ethan's screen like a ghost. "Lux is alive." Ethan showed it to Sofia as they descended the rooftop stairs, her brow furrowed. "I thought we shut it down. We stopped Victoria. We handed over everything." "We stopped her," Ethan said, voice tense. "But not the tech. If LUX is still running, someone else has it, or worse, they've finished what I started." The next morning, Ethan gathered his most trusted allies in his private lab, Sofia, Kira, and Devin, his cybersecurity head, back from sabbatical the moment the leak hit the news. Kira ran a sweep. "The original LUX framework has been accessed remotely from a signal that's bouncing through untraceable nodes in Zurich, Singapore, and one other location." She paused. "New York, downtown." Sofia's eyes widened. "Someone's running the prototype here?" Ethan turned slowly. "There was only one prototype, and I locked it away 2 years ago, underground, no network access, no power source, unless—" He sprinted to a secure vault beneath his personal research facility. There, protected by biometric locks, was a sealed chamber. The vault door was open. Inside, the casing that once held the LUX core was empty. They tracked the signal to an abandoned tech startup downtown. When Ethan and Sofia arrived, they weren't alone. A figure stepped from the shadows. Nathan Vale, an ex-Crosstech engineer Ethan had fired 3 years ago for unethical experiments. He vanished after that, until now. Nathan grinned. "You thought locking away genius would keep the world safe, but the world's already broken, Ethan. Lex doesn't belong in a vault. It belongs in the hands of someone willing to reshape everything." Ethan stepped forward. "You used Victoria. You framed Brent. You kidnapped Sofia's brother." "Collateral," Nathan said, shrugging. "You built a neural interface capable of connecting thought to machine, an evolution in human cognition, and you wanted to use it for therapy apps and medical research. Cute. But LUX can predict behavior, control digital ecosystems, reshape entire governments." Sofia's voice was cold. "You want to weaponize it." Nathan lifted a small device from his coat. "I already have. This is the handheld core, Ella X 2.0. All it takes is one trigger, and your system, your company, goes offline permanently." Ethan's hand hovered near his coat pocket, where he had a pulse jammer ready. But one wrong move could cost them everything. Then Sofia did something unexpected. She stepped forward and said, "You're right, Nathan. The world is broken, but not beyond saving." She walked slowly, carefully. "And you want control. You want power, but you don't understand what LUX actually is." Nathan tilted his head. "It was never just a neural interface," she said, glancing at Ethan. "It was a mirror. LUX reads human intent. It adapts. Which means, if you're corrupted—" She looked him straight in the eye. "LUX will be too." Nathan hesitated, and Ethan moved. Click. The jammer in his pocket fired. Nathan's device sparked and fried. He screamed as it burned in his hand. Within seconds, Crosstech's firewall reactivated and locked out LUX's remote access. The rogue. Signal died. Police burst through the doors seconds later, tipped off by Kira and Devin, watching the signal from the lab. Nathan Vale was arrested. Weeks later, Crosstech resumed full operations. Victoria's arrest went public. Ethan made a rare public address, not as a CEO, but as a man who'd nearly lost everything to protect what mattered. And LUX, it was dismantled, piece by piece, rebuilt with independent oversight, transparency, and a purpose no one could twist, healing minds, rebuilding memories, restoring broken connections, just like it had for him. 1 month later, Sofia stood barefoot in Ethan's penthouse kitchen, wrapped in his shirt, pouring coffee as sunlight streamed through the windows. He walked in behind her, kissed her cheek. "You know," she said, "most love stories don't start with fake identities, kidnapping, and tech conspiracies." He smirked. "But most love stories don't end like this either." Sofia turned, eyes shining. "And how does this one end?" Ethan pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. It doesn't, he said, opening it to reveal a simple, beautiful ring. It just begins.